morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Wednesday, November 7th, 2018, and it's time for that morning slam. Little bit of different configuration. Once again, we're going through some different awesome new frames that we have. We're also kind of bouncing back and forth between morning show and afternoon show, just depending on what's going on today. This allows me to do a whole bunch of different things and service you like no one else can. So morning time, once again, that means it's morning slam, and because of the last 2 days of Raw and Smackdown and no show, we've yet to give you all the thoughts on Raw and or Smackdown, and there's a lot to talk about there, actually more than I thought. There's a few things I want to get to that we're going to talk about for a little bit, kind of bullshit about a few things. It's also going to be a very heavy caller show. I'm sure we got a lot of opportunity for you guys to call in, get your voice heard, sound off, talk about stuff, but we need you to be here to do it. So make sure that you're here with us live each and every single morning slam so you can call in, so you can be a part of the show, so you can get in the chat. Go ahead and tweet out stream. Let everybody know that we're live right now, talking wrestling, MMA, boxing, sports, and whatever else flies into this beautiful mind of mine. Josh Lyons in the chat. Haven't been able to see past couple shows. Did you talk about Mayweather fight coming up? I did. I talked about it the other day. Make sure you go watch that show. The Sunday show, I believe. Or Sunday or Monday show. One of the two. It might have been Monday show. Go check that out. It was a pretty damn good show. Pretty damn great show, I would say. I do talk about the Mayweather fight, the fact that he's going over to China to fight a kickboxer, and why I'm loving it. But that was then. Let's talk about what's going on right now. And there's a few things happening that I want to start with. And Triple H going under surgery, going under an operation to repair a torn right pectoral muscle. Looks like he might be missing 5 to 9 months of in-ring competition if he so chooses to return at this point, which he doesn't need to. And honestly, this isn't even something that I was going to cover or talk about because I didn't think it was all that big of a deal. But then I noticed something, the fact that it is happening at the Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center in Birmingham, Alabama, which WWE has had a very long relationship with. Triple H has also been a big advocate of Dr. Andrews, and so has many other people, as that is the #1 facility in the world for, knee, arm repairs, all kinds of stuff. The interesting thing about it, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, is they're being sued over there. Big time. $180 million by a former NFL player whose career didn't pan out. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy, but it's an interesting thing. But so many athletes and so many people who, have been going to Dr. Andrews for years continues to do so. And the results have always been very, very positive. I'm hoping Triple H does make it back for WrestleMania. It's a possibility. There's the big talks about him and Batista finally having their match. They teased it as early as a couple weeks ago on SmackDown 1000. It's not something that I would hate to see. I definitely don't want to see Triple H with younger talent anymore. Like, I'm over that. Totally fucking over it. I just don't need to see it. Its dream matches are nothing. Because what's the point? There's absolutely no point to continue to do other things and, and have him in there with younger guys who he's not going to help. He's not going to help. You can make the argument he did not help Roman Reigns at all. The last guy that he probably helped, and even the slightest, was probably Seth Rollins. But it's about the older guys. Let's go ahead and keep him in those realms. Batista, no problem with it. Let's do it. Let's make that happen. Also, oh man, why is this happening with this frame sometimes? So weird. We got a brand new frame that we're testing out, getting all the kinks out of it. It is having a few issues, as you just saw. It just turned off for no reason, but it's a wonderful, beautiful frame, and I love it. This is done by, of course, the one and only Lord Vega. Look at this. We've been going a couple different frames. There's an intro that does accompany it, but I do got to do some work to it. I got to get the something out. It's not a big deal. I got to fix something with it, but it looks amazing, and I'm absolutely loving it. Make sure you give a little love to Lord Vega for his amazing work yet again. Holy God, it's pretty great. So I'll be moving this in and out of other frames. Okay. The other news that I found interesting was Jose Lothario passing away. 83 years old. Now, all right, now it's notable for me for a couple of reasons. One, I thought Jose Lothario has long been off this planet. Had no idea he was still around. But nobody talks about Super Sock anymore, man. Jose Lothario was once a very important figure in the wrestling world, and he is very important and integral to the development of one of the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest professional sports entertainer in the history of the world, that is Shawn Michaels. I mean, he helped pick out the name for Shawn. I mean, the whole original gimmick, you know, it's just Jose Lothario all over it. And he was an on-screen character with Shawn for a very long time as Shawn's trainer, his mentor. They did a lot of great stuff. There was some stuff that they did with Sid and Vader that actually got Jose involved. There were some really great things that Jose Lothario was a part of with not only Shawn, but in wrestling in general. This is a guy who's been around the industry for so long, and the name does not get talked about enough. So a little bit of rest in peace in the chat for Super Sock Jose Lothario. And if you don't know who he is, if you have no idea who we're talking about, go look him up, man. Jose Lothario is a very interesting story about a guy who just continued to press forward in the industry no matter what. Did it at a different time with his ethnicity and all kinds of things. Had a very interesting story and helped many American wrestlers get in that right in the bang zone where they want to be. So go check out Jose Lothario. And a very sad day. Very sad day. Not cool. Final non-wrestling, non-Raw, non-Smackdown type thing I want to talk to before we start moving on is hockey. And I know it's always dangerous to talk about hockey, but don't worry. It'll be about 9 seconds long, which might be 6 seconds too long, because if you talk about hockey for more than 3 seconds, it is a fact that you'll lose 40% of the audience. It just kind of is. But Joe Quenneville, arguably one of the top 5 greatest head coaches in the history of hockey, was fired by the Chicago Blackhawks in a surprising move in some ways, considering he is the second all-time winningest head coach in the history of the Blackhawks. And he's won 3 cups, in the last one, being in 2015 or 2013? It's been a while. I don't even know anymore. The problem, I think it was 2013, but I'm not sure. The problem is, with all that, and as great times and as wonderful as it is, the Blackhawks have completely fallen off, and it seems like it's the talent that is not being receptive to the coaches anymore. That's what it seemed like to me. The talent is not beyond its prime. I mean, to think that Kane and Taves are done at, I think, below 30, less than 30, is crazy, but it is whatever it is. You know, you really can't do too much about it, because that's just kind of how the life cycle goes. You gave these 2 guys massive contracts, and now they're at the back end of those contracts, and now you got to figure out what you're going to do with your franchise, because you're completely strapped for cash. And honestly, as much as I love Quenneville, it was time to make this move. It was time to make the move, and I'm glad that the Hawks went to a very young, did no pressure, you know, a very young new head coach, youngest head coach in the league. I think you want to say he's like 31, 32 years old, incredibly young. Probably won't be the long-term head coach of the Blackhawks. I don't see the Hawks, you know, really rallying around this guy and then making the playoffs. I mean, it's possible with the talent that they have, but it's just an interesting thing. Something I wanted to bring up real quick, because it's important sporting news. If you like hockey, if you just like tradition or anything like that, seeing one of the greatest head coaches in hockey history, certainly the greatest North American-born coach in hockey history, you know, go through the same things that everybody else does. It's like, it would be the equivalent of like Greg Popovich getting fired by the Spurs at this point. Granted, longer tenured, but my God, Quenneville has had such an incredible stretch in Chicago. Pretty damn great. So, all right. And Super Bears agrees it was 100% time to shake things up. Had to. Absolutely had to. All right, let's get to Raw and SmackDown and get into all the things. I got a lot of notes from Raw and SmackDown. We're going to burst through it, crank it out, and then we'll go ahead and get to your calls, questions, comments, concerns, hopes, dreams, quips, quotes, likes, loves, and so much more. Make sure you throw them in the comment section. Also, we have to catch up a little bit. Want to give a lot of love to that insane 2-hour stream I did yesterday on Twitch. If you were there, you know why it was so crazy. Lord, it was nuts. We drank a few beers. We had a couple of beer chugs that we had to do. Did not get to all of them, mainly because we had so many other insane things that were happening, including Carl G being one of the most incredible human beings on the planet yet again, and helping us giving us essentially a Nintendo Switch for the channel. So we're going to have a Switch to bring you new content over on the Twitch side of things very, very soon. And I'm so excited for that. The Switch thing really has to do with the Pokemon Go, which I'm very, very excited. Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, Let's Go, Eevee, which I'm going to be getting. It's going to be very exciting. So again, thank you for that. And sorry that you missed it if you did. So we got a few more beers that we got to do. We're not doing 40 beers. Those beers weren't for that. It was for another donation we got earlier, but I do want to get a couple more down. So we'll do one here, and we'll do another one later on if we do take to Twitch. It depends how long we're going to be here for, as I'm really not sure at this point. So bottoms up and good morning. Goddamn 10. Definitely one of the earliest beer chugs I've ever done. There we go. And that's how we wake up. That's how we wake up. Raw and SmackDown. Okay. Raw and SmackDown are always tricky for me. Always tricky, especially when you're coming off of a very high condensed area of shows. We've had, Evolution. We had Saudi Arabia. We got Survivor Series in a couple weeks. And they're also doing the overseas tour, which always sucks. Overseas tours blow. For Raw and SmackDown purposes, they're terrible. They're never good. At least we don't have those stupid gigantic phone booths on the stage anymore for Raw and SmackDown every time they go to the UK. Thank God that's over, I believe. At least I didn't see them. I didn't hate them this week. I didn't hate it. Typically, these shows always fall flat. There's just not a lot there. There'll be an exciting moment or two, but most things are very forgettable. Usually those moments come with, a UK star making their debut, which we did get on SmackDown, and I'm going to talk about that. But I didn't hate Raw and SmackDown. And the funny thing is, as I was prepping for this show, I was actually ready to be flippant and meh and whatever about the shows. Because I was like, well, for one, I was high during Raw and SmackDown this week. I watched both of them blitzed out of my mind because I've just been dealing with pain and everything. And I was like, well, fuck it. I ain't doing anything else. Let's get absolutely obliterated and watch the shows. And I did, which helped with the enjoyment. Don't get me wrong. But as I found myself prepping for this show this morning, going back through notes and going back through everything that happened during the shows, I was like, wow, there was actually quite a few good things. So we don't have it broken up as Raw and SmackDown. We just got a whole bunch of different topics that I found interesting about Raw and SmackDown, and we're going to talk about them now. Starting with Braun Strowman. They did a lot of damage control from everything that happened in Saudi Arabia. We're going to talk about a few more things with that, because there were some things that were messed up in Saudi Arabia, or at least we thought they were, that was going to really lead to some issues going forward. One of the big ones being Braun Strowman getting squashed by Brock Lesnar. But I think a lot of us forgot the fact that Baron Corbin was involved. He did waylay Braun Strowman with the title, which is supposed to protect wrestlers. Remember, screwy finishes, screwy starts, interferences, another person being added in to eat the pin. All of these things are things that wrestling promotions do to protect people who have to lose matches, people that they want to protect, people they don't want to see take clean losses and potentially get hurt by taking those losses, Braun being one of them. Most people still look at that as a squash match, though. But Monday did a good job of kind of reversing that thought process with Baron Corbin being on the run the entire show. Now, granted, I'm not a huge fan of seeing things like that where, it's the GM, the power-hungry GM or whatever. He's playing his games, manipulating the show rosters, blah, blah, blah. Typically, I'm not a big fan of that. It doesn't really do much for me. But I do think that there's going to be some sort of a payoff here when Baron does inevitably lose the interim job as GM, because he's done a terrible job. He has not been a good GM. He's been an awful one, but lucky for him, Kurt Angle's awful. Kurt Angle's a terrible GM. I actually much rather see Kurt Angle in the ring, even after what we got with McIntyre on Monday, which was okay. Kurt wasn't as bad in that match as he's been in a lot of others, but it wasn't awful, and I'd certainly rather see him there than fumble around the GM stuff for another year, which was probably what's going to happen. But eventually, Baron Corbin will be out, and he's going to have to deal with a lot of the things that he's done as GM, Braun Strowman being one of them. Now, why Braun going on the tangents, the tirades, beating the crap out of people and all of that. Why it's important is, as great as some of the things they were doing with Braun, McIntyre, and Ziggler were, it also really muddled the waters. It's because they were so screwed with the Roman Reigns situation. And I'm not even talking about the leukemia. I'm talking about the entire run, and the fact that they would not get off the Brock Lesnar thing forced them to finally pull the trigger on Roman Reigns, but they had nobody set up in line. You know, Bobby Lashley had yet to really start his heel turn or anything of that nature. So they needed somebody else that made sense immediately. And they were making that guy to be Braun Strowman. I think they were pushing the card of Braun Strowman being the uber rival to Roman Reigns a little bit too early. And we've had this fail before. Bray Wyatt was supposed to be the inevitable big thorn in the side forever of Roman Reigns. Those two were supposed to go up the ranks together. It didn't happen because it's so hard to really connect with Bray Wyatt in that way. But Braun Strowman's a little bit different. For good, bad, or indifferent, no matter what they've done with Braun, people have continued to love Braun and get infatuated with him and love what he's doing, even when he's being corny and trying to be over comedic. And even though that they have hammered the get these hands thing into the ground, there is still something really magical about the presence of Braun Strowman. So it was really good to see that they have not fucked Braun up so much. Thank God. I really thought that they screwed up Braun Strowman to a level that could not be repaired. I was very happy to see that I was wrong on that. I was incredibly happy to see that there is a way to go forward with Braun, that you can restructure him as that big monster of a man type situation, and whether it be Brock Lesnar, whether it be somebody else, Baron Corbin now most likely being that target, we're going to have a chance to see him rebuilt, and it may not even be the worst thing. A lot of people were like, they should have put the title on Braun. It may have just simply been too early. Are we forgetting how green Braun still can be at times? Him having to wait a little while longer may not be the worst thing in the world. And if it gets us a little bit more opportunity to see what he does with different types of talent, I don't think it's too bad, as long as they don't keep flipping back and forth and inevitably turn him into the Big Show, because too many turns kills you. It will kill your character. There are very few guys who can flip back and forth on a dime and still be relevant. Chris Jericho is one of them, who's always gone back and forth and never really had a problem doing it. In fact, he's done it his entire career. He might be the only guy I can think of, now that I really, really think about it, that was able to switch as many times as he did and still be okay. Still be considered one of the greatest, 10 wrestlers of all time. I think you put Jericho in that category, 10 to 15. Big Show probably outside of that number quite a bit. And one of the reasons is, the older you get as a big man, the more limited you get. But you also have to worry about situations like what we just talked about, where turning too much simply doesn't allow you to connect. There are some guys who never turn, who are always the same. There are some people who they just simply don't know what to do with. And Big Show's always been that guy. And it's a lot easier to do it with the bigger guys than it is the smaller guys. But Jericho's one of the only people that I can think about that turned at will. Just like bloop, 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 like a light switch. Randy's had quite a few turns as well, but typically those are long, structured turns, so I don't know. What's up, PK? Good to see you, man. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. Makad, Kolofsky, Super Bears, Full Land, Josh Lyons, all you guys. Gerald Hebert, what's up, man? Good to see you guys. Make sure you tweet out, stream, let everybody know that we're here as we go through all the things that happened on Raw and SmackDown. Next item of note, you guys tell me, did Natalya and the Jim the Anvil Neidhart glasses spot with Ruby Riott do anything for you? Did it touch a nerve? Did it get you upset? Or did you kind of laugh at Natalya? Now, if you're like me and did, in fact, laugh at Natalya and then wonder why you're such a bad person for doing so, because it's fucked up. Look, we all know that those weren't the real glasses, and that's fine. But just the idea of it is pretty fucked up that Ruby Riott would snap the glasses that belonged to Jim the Anvil Neidhart months within him dying. So it should have mattered, right? It should have done something. The problem is kind of what we talked about earlier. Natalya is in that same kind of an issue where she did too many switches. She's been heel and face too many times. Nobody really knows what Natalya is, and she's not very good at any of the character stuff anyway, so she gets very much easily thought about in the after. You know, she becomes that afterthought, and you'll see it quite often too, because she is so good in the ring. She's great to watch. She's so much fun, but yet when she has to talk or cry or do anything, God, you just can't help but laugh. You just want to laugh at her, man. You can't even help at it. You feel bad about it. But I was watching it, and Ruby Riott did such a good job of snapping those glasses and looking like a big, mean bitch. I like that, and I want to see that continue out of Ruby Riott. Maybe not the entire Riott Squad, because I see Liv Morgan. I see superstardom in Liv Morgan's future, potentially. And I did not. I used to hate Liv Morgan. You go back to her NXT days, I used to shit on her all the time. I've become quite a fan of her, and not only because she's tough as shit, but just because I like the way she handles herself. I really do. But Liv has a chance of being Ruby. I mean, Ruby has a chance of being incredibly great as a heel. It's unfortunate that moment is not really going to matter, but it's something that could matter. You know, if she can do more things with that, with people who can actually connect at an emotional level, that could be something really cool. It's just kind of unfortunate and highlighted once again that, you know, Natalya just going to be a missed opportunity. And it's not even, this one's not even fully WWE's fault. Maybe they did ruin her with all the farting gimmicks and everything that she's gone through in the past. But, you know, she's also just not very good at promos and talking and being that really interesting character that you have to gravitate towards. She's just not good at that. Never has been. It was very Russo booking. It's not like they spent months on her wearing those to establish a thing. It's almost like they found sunglasses and lost and found and decided, hey, let's use these tonight. It did kind of feel like that, right? Like it was kind of out of nowhere, but because she's already done stuff with Jim the Anvil Neidhart's gear in the past, like his jacket and such like that, it really didn't become a big stretch to me. I think the only people who are going to be looking for those type of faults with it are the ones who are just looking for the situation to fail anyway. Whether or not we all know they weren't the real glasses. It doesn't feel like it was overly rushed because they have been laying on the emotional connection with Jimmy Anvil Neidhart since he's died. So that wasn't too big of a detriment to the thing. It was more of just that it didn't connect because of Natalya. To me, at least. That's my opinion. Hey, $5 for Super Bears.
Love the show. Just showing support.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I'll always take the time to give you copious amounts of love for that. Let's get you a hat change. I'll go to a Cubs beanie, man. I haven't worn a Cubs beanie in a while. Because it's Super Bears, and I believe Super Bears is a Chicago kid like me, so he'll appreciate a little bit of Cubby love, unless he's a dirty, rotten White Sox fan. Thank you very much for the $5. I appreciate that, my friend. All right. Apollo Crews. All right. It looks like there might still be time for Apollo. Now, look. Apollo's been a guy who's been around in WWE for a while now. You know, longer than you really expect to remember him being around. But he has. He's been a failed experiment for a while. Apollo was a guy that Uha Nation, if you don't know who he is, Uha Nation, if you don't know who he was an incredibly recruited talent on the independent circuit. He had a horrific injury jumping outside of the ring, clipping his knee a little bit, really messed up his knee. He ended up going to NXT, looking very good in NXT, but they gave him a very short time, baby. Very short time in NXT, and it never felt like he was truly ready to move forward. There were some flashes because of how athletically gifted the guy is, and he is. There's no question about that. But they never fully let him develop. You know, it always felt like, man, another 5-6 months down there in NXT, and Apollo Crews really could have been a polished wrestler and ready to go. But instead, they kind of rushed him up. He didn't have a lot of purpose or meaning to be up there, and then he just took loss after loss after loss, and then wound up with Titus O'Neil. Because that's a thing, and that's a good idea, I guess. I don't know. So it was really difficult to see that and to kind of go through it, because I do like Apollo Crews. I honestly, after all this time, I didn't think there was a chance to fix Apollo without setting him down to NXT. Now, over the last few weeks, they've kind of changed his nature a little bit. He's kind of relying on the highlight reel persona, which apparently is going to be what WWE is going to push him on. And he's winning. He got a victory over the modern-day Maharaja this week, which may not seem like much, but look, whenever anybody gets a world title, whenever they lose to somebody else, it is intended and designed to help elevate the guy who beats him. And I think it worked with Apollo a little bit, but we need more. We need more actual highlight reels, not just that backflip that he does to pin. No, we need to see the things that made him too easy in the independent circuit. We got to let him go a little bit and really show what he can do, because he is a very talented dude. So I don't know if it's too late on Mr. Apollo Crews. Do you guys think it's too late? Because it kind of feels like a lot of people have tuned out, although he did get a pretty good reaction in the UK. Now, granted, that doesn't really matter, but it's still pretty interesting because I really like Apollo and I want to see him succeed. So I don't think it's too late. I don't. Seth freaking Rollins and Dean Ambrose, the entire situation between these guys is interesting, because with Seth being the Intercontinental Champion, with Seth already having long-standing feuds and rivalries with a few people who are still on the roster, with losing Roman Reigns, it almost feels like the entire situation with Ambrose is secondary. Now, them winning the tag team championships obviously left something unfinished that they needed to address. And it looked like Seth Rollins, which I found very weird, was just going to relinquish the titles, which I thought was kind of stupid. And then I found it even stupider that Baron Corbin decided, I'm not going to let you can't quit, you're fired type situation. No, you're not going to give up those titles. I'm going to make you defend them in a handicap match instead. Now, half of that I don't mind. The handicap match to defend the titles, I actually don't mind. I think was a smart move. But I don't think it should have been, the pre-setup with Seth trying to get rid of the titles. If anything, Seth should have been like, Dean, I don't care what you do to me. We got these titles, and I'm going to defend them. And I think they should have let him defend them a couple times. They overcome the odds. Really push him as that next-level man. Because it not only helps the feud with Dean Ambrose, and Dean could have cost him the titles or did whatever he wanted to do, because this is a really intriguing storyline, but it would have allowed you to build something further for Seth to continue this year that he's had of magnificent performances. If he gets a couple title victories, and I'm not suggesting over AOP or anything like that, but if he gets a couple title victories on his own, and he's really just continuing to push forward, they can connect on an emotional level with everything that Dean just did and all this stuff, and then eventually that loss will mean something. And it still could have meant something to AOP. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that AOP winning the titles in that fashion somehow is going to screw AOP, or it doesn't matter that much. With AOP, with the way that they've been handled at times, the way they won their first title is really not that important. At least I don't think it is. I don't think it's something that's going to haunt AOP for the rest of their time. This is a very talented tag team, a very young tag team. Drake Maverick somehow is working as the manager of that team. Very odd. I really don't understand how. He's doing a very good job. And I never liked Rockstar Spud, by the way. I was just never a big fan. But it's interesting to see how much people were upset about this. It cheapened the entire AOP run. We haven't seen anything out of them yet. The fact is, even before everything that happened with Seth and Dean winning tag team titles, as good as the matches have been with Ziggler and McIntyre and all of that stuff, it really hasn't been all that interesting, because it never felt like it was about the tag team titles anyway. So the way I look at it is the tag team division needed to be reset. AOP is a perfect tag team to do that with. Reset, cleanse the palate. That's why the way they won the titles don't really matter that much. The fact is they still had a pretty good match with Seth Rollins to take the belts off of them. Not a bad thing at all. Now it's important about what they do with AOP going forward. We need meaningful matches, important stuff that makes people care. And like Daniel Sims just says, I miss Sanity. Well, we're going to talk about Sanity in a minute, but there are teams like the Revival, and there's other people down in NXT and such that they can bring up and really develop out the tag team division. Now, once again, I'm going to advocate that they drop this stupidity with two separate tag team divisions. We just need one. And SmackDown kind of showed us why. We're going to get a 10-team tag team match, and it's going to be fucking terrible at Survivor Series. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment as well. The other thing that happened with the Seth Rollins and AOP situation was Ambrose coming out and attacking Seth once again after the match, which I really liked. I'm really enjoying the slow burn and seeing these two kind of continue to dissolve into nothingness. I don't know how far it's going to go. I don't know if Dean is going to just continue to make Seth's life a living hell. I have no idea. I don't know if he's going to cost him the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know if he's going to take it off of him. I don't know if he's going to screw his match with Shinsuke. I don't know. But very interesting regardless. Everyone lies. I have never understood AOP. I love AOP. I'm a big fan. Super Bears. AOP should hold them for a while, and whoever beats them will have really earned it. Yeah, AOP needs to be that destructive force. I like them. They're big. They move well. They're still green. They still need time, but this is a team, because of their size, because of their look, and because of the ability they already have, they can carry that division a little bit and be mainstays if they allow them to be. So we'll see how that goes. Josh Lyons, did you see Rusev's tweet about NXT yesterday? No, I did not. Please tell me what he said. TKO, yo, good morning to the copious chat room and King, Dead on Dave. Thank you very much. How you doing? Welcome in, Mushpuff. Already been rocking and rolling for over a half hour now, baby. And we're just going through a whole bunch of things that happened on Raw and SmackDown and giving you my thoughts on them. I've got to ask you guys a question, because right now it's the biggest conundrum going on in my head. How is Elias working? Explain this to me. I thought about a month ago that the Elias movement was really starting to die out. There really wasn't much there with it. They seemed to be lost where he was starting to do heelish and face type stuff. It seemed a little confusing, you know, and really the reactions seemed to get down a little bit, except for when he demanded, you know, the walk with Elias stuff. And then it just started bursting again for some reason. It started picking up steam again, really started picking up steam when he became the full-fledged face with Corbin and all that, and then still shitting on certain people, like he took a shit on Dana Brooke. Everybody loved that. I have never really, like, everyone says charisma. I've never really seen all that much charisma out of Elias. Everything he does, all of his maneuvers, I'm not even talking in ring, I'm talking about his charisma and all that. It's all cheap heat based. It's all cheap. And we're going to see now that he has to work face a little bit more, we're going to see how creative he can be. And I got to be honest, I'm liking it for now. I am liking the things that he's saying and doing as he's making this transition to an obvious next level talent. WWE is clearly pushing him up to a high level. Now, typically you wouldn't say that over a victory with Dolph Ziggler, but it felt kind of important. After everything that Dolph did over the weekend and everything that Dolph has done in the past few months, really, a victory by Elias Sampson means Elias Sampson. I went to his old name. Elias really does mean something. Is he for real? It's fucking crazy. It's insane, and it's like, it's real. It's real. It's like, this is a serious thing that's happening. He is really getting some traction. People are really caring about him, and he's actually much better in the ring than I gave him credit for in NXT. I'm starting to really become an Elias fan. I hate myself for saying it, but I am starting to really like him a lot. Makad, I did not know, but he is. I know. I think Elias comes across as really enjoyable as gimmick, and it showed. It really is enjoying his gimmick, and it showed. It's true. Everyone lies. I have, and you're right. It's cheap heat. His delivery is better than most. See, I don't think it is. I really thought a lot of his stuff he was doing as a heel was very paint by numbers, you know, make fun of the crowd. I never thought his delivery was all that good. But it does feel like, as of late, he's really embracing the character more, which helps connection. So I don't know. I'm really enjoying what he's doing at the moment. I just find it odd that he's just continuing to go, you know, through. It's funny. He's a wrestler, but I think that when he does his promos, they seem very natural. I haven't felt that until recently, but I feel you. It's just kind of crazy that he is. It's not even like a Rusev Day where I still feel it's going to dissipate and go away, because I just don't think Rusev is all that good. I think there might be something here with Elias. I think there might be something really here with Elias. We'll see. Only time will tell. Let's talk about Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. We're going to cross over from Raw to SmackDown with this a little bit. Becky and Ronda is actually one of the most interesting things that WWE has at the moment. I was not sold on the idea of keeping Becky heel after the way they flipped her and the crowd not really reacting to her. That wasn't until I saw her this weekend. Everything that she's done over the last 10 days. The way she's reacting with the crowd, the fact that she's not shitting on the crowd, shows that the WWE is indeed keeping her as a tweener, but just with a massive attitude, which I love. I love this whole the man thing. Oh, it's perfect. And I never thought she could pull it off. I really didn't. I didn't think she could pull off this, and I was wrong. And I was really stupid because I forgot how good she was as a heel back in her NXT days. She was a great heel back then. And the fact that they sent her face really pissed me off, and they've kept her this way for so long, and it really hasn't worked. She's good in the ring, but when you're a face and you have to do the same things, you get old very quickly, and that's what happened with Becky. Since she has turned heel, though, and turned real, or whatever we want to call it, she seems so locked in and natural and connective with her material. Like, this feels like a Rock moment. It feels like a Stone Cold Steve Austin moment. It feels like that moment when the light turns on and you are being who you are, but just turned up. I feel there are so many aspects that she is just embracing about her true emotions and true feelings about wrestling and everything that she's had to do. It also doesn't hurt that she is a bad motherfucker in that ring. When she's really doing her thing and she doesn't have to stay by the paint-by-numbers face formula that the WWE likes to impose on so many wrestlers, she is fucking amazing. When she's not doing straight fire and all that, she is incredible. And the things that she's doing right now, give Charlotte credit for giving her some of that legitimacy with all the matches that they've had as of late. But her going forward, and specifically with the attacks with Rousey, the fact they have not even gotten physical yet, but it feels like we've already been through a war. The way that they're going after each other, the way that they're taking shots, the way, both of them, not just Becky, by the way, because Ronda has we all know that Ronda still has some issues within the ring and everything. She's still learning, but God, is she really advanced to where she is? It's incredible. I don't have a problem with her being champion. I don't have a problem with her being one of the top faces. I don't have a problem with her being one of the top build matches for Survivor Series and going forward. I have no problem with it. I love Ronda Rousey mainly because of her character. But people aren't giving her enough credit for the things that she's doing on the microphone as she's still on the job training. And the fact that she's transitioning so well and just kicking ass with her own promos. She was... Okay, let's go back to last week on SmackDown when Becky really started opening in on Ronda. I thought Ronda was dead in the water. She came out this week and she hammered back beautifully. She can get a little bit too monologue-y at times, but I do enjoy what she does. I enjoy how she delivers it. I enjoy how she says it. I enjoyed the whole tale of, I was bred for this. I like that. I'm the baddest bitch on the planet. I love everything that she does. It's fantastic. And I was like, man, how much farther are they going to push the line? And are they going to allow Becky to keep going? Because I know if Becky keeps on pushing, she's going to eat Ronda alive, because Becky is so much better of a talker than Ronda is. They're going to have to pull her back a little bit on SmackDown. Nope. Not happening. Instead, they go the opposite way, and Becky eats Ronda's lunch on camera last night, essentially. She took Ronda's lunch and just ate it. And it was great. And that's not even to say that she's won this exchange with Ronda, because it's been so good. But Becky's on another level right now. When we were talking about Elias and people who are starting to reach that next tier, Becky is rocketing out of the stratosphere right now. She is breaking past the glass ceiling. I guarantee her merch numbers are going crazy. I guarantee everything about Becky is going absolutely insane right now, because now you want to talk about Ronda and her ability physically to rip past the whole idea of just being a woman wrestler. Charlotte can do that as well with her ability. There are very few women who have been able to do it over the years, but there are some. Becky's becoming that. Becky's becoming so good, and she's having such good matches, and her character is so advanced that it doesn't matter that she's a woman anymore. And that's always been very difficult. I understand we're in a different age now and things are different, and this shouldn't be as crazy and as less common as maybe I'm making it out to be. It still fucking is, okay? It's still, to have a woman that's able to draw, let alone one, which we have with Ronda, and arguably two with Charlotte as well, and maybe arguably with a couple more that are coming up the fucking pipe, but to have people like Ronda and Becky that are going up at the same time and shattering through is fucking unheard of, man. This is awesome to see. And they're not just doing it in ring and Ronda improving and everything, but it's more than that because they're doing it with their words. They're doing it with their actions and their believability. This is an important match for Ronda, and I don't think that Ronda is going to lose the match. I'm not sure how to book this. Like, that's my only issue with those two facing in Survivor Series. How do you book it? Do you want to give Ronda her first loss already? Does it matter? You could make the argument that it's the perfect place and the worst place for Ronda to take her first loss. She loses to Becky. It's really not that big of a deal. She doesn't lose the title. It doesn't really hurt her. As long as she doesn't fucking tap. Do not tap either one of these women, by the way. Neither of these women should tap. But if you have her losing away, maybe not even eating a pin, but just some way of doing it to where it's not insulting, but they have a great match. This is an important step for Ronda's development. Huge important step. Because Becky was right. She hasn't been tested. Maybe you want to say that, that Nikki really did step up, and she did. She did a very good job with her match. But this is the first real big test for Ronda. And the cool thing is, it's rare that we see somebody who has such a big test early in their career, and it's still very early in Ronda's career, but it still feels like it's also one of her opponent's biggest matches, and her opponent is a veteran who's fought everybody. Becky Lynch has been in there with everybody, but it still feels like Ronda's a legitimate threat to Becky. This is a special matchup. This is a special situation that we don't get to see very often with two people that are at the top of their game. Really not even two people, because Ronda is still learning. But, I mean, people are allowing them and embracing them as the two top in the industry in some regards. They're really putting them up on a pedestal, and I think it's really cool to watch them go and do this stuff and make this magic together. I just hope the match doesn't suck. Becky Lynch, the man, I want to get I Am the Man shirt. I want to get that fucking shirt. It's amazing. I love it. I really do. Becky Lynch is very pretty. Becky Lynch is gorgeous, Raging Max. Becky Lynch is gorgeous. My God. Let's see here. Terry Snow Queen's in the house. Morning, Dave, and my lovelies. What's going on, gorgeous? Daniel Sims, did you see her Twitter beef with Seth Rollins? Becky is too good. I know. It was very, very funny. Very, very funny. Dalton Clark. So what do you think the plan is for Shane? I thought they were going to turn him heel. I thought so, too. We're going to talk about that in just a moment because I do want to talk about Shane. I have it on the list. I'm going to talk about it in just a moment. Danny Sims calling it now. Becky is going to show up on Raw at some point before SummerSlam, more than likely. Actually, I think because that's kind of an obvious one, I think they might do the opposite. I think Ronda might invade on Becky on SmackDown. Becky is naturally over. I agree. She's the man, says Raging Max. Yes, she is. Ronda writes her own promos. I've heard that, which is impressive. She does a good job, too. Super Bears. Becky got the shaft for a good year. I'm happy for her recent success. Me, too. Dalton Clark. Yeah, you could tell Ronda's promos. So I don't agree. I don't agree. I think Ronda's promos are fantastic. I think she does a fantastic job. They're giving the win to Ronda, Dave. They are two behind her. No, but the point is they don't have to. They don't have to give it's not just about that. I don't think it's as cut and dry as that, especially when you're ignoring what Becky's doing. Trust me, they have shut their eyes on the can't miss golden people in the past when somebody else is elevated. And if Becky's elevating and she leaves Ronda in the dust, they're going to get on that train. There are ways to protect wrestlers and still have them take a loss. The point is, Ronda's going to have to lose eventually. And we've seen with the Asuka effect, taking a loss even after a very long winning streak doesn't really matter. It didn't really matter. Nobody cares anymore. Winning streaks are stupid. They don't give a fuck. So, but protecting it, even if there is something to protect, protecting against Becky makes a lot of sense. So, I don't know. In this situation, because there's really not much on the line, just don't have anyone tap out. Just don't have anyone tap out. That's it. That's it. The only issue I have with Ronda's promos are some of her wording. At times, I think because, yes, she's very monologue-y, she'll start getting ahead of herself, and she picks the grandiose word, because I think that she's so used to the wrestling promo being so over the top and dramatic, and she will get too dramatic. I think it's very important that somebody gets a hold of her and shows her the less is more tactic. Like, you can use the big, scary word or the big phrase, the big, long phrase that explains something, or you can find those one or two words that simply get the message across so you can move on to more important points. She needs to learn that. But overall, I don't have a problem with Ronda speaking. I don't have a problem with her promos. I don't have a problem with what she says. I don't have a problem with her attitude, her ring presence. I really don't. I think anything that people are going to say about Ronda at this point is nitpicky, considering how fast she's learned, how good of a job she's actually done, and the fact that she's just not hurting people either. You know, everyone wants to talk about how bad her in-ring work is at times, which I don't see, by the way. I think everything that is there is planned, and the women are all, they give her their bodies. They're like, take my body, I trust you, because this is what Ronda does. This is what judo is. Judo is extreme body manipulation, and she knows how to do it. And they seem to trust her, so I don't know. Her delivery is wooden for like half of her promo, but then she goes mean face, it turns around. I don't know. I feel like it's just a build, and because she's such a, she was a fucking Roddy Piper fan, who was very, very similar in a lot of ways, who would talk on a very long point and then flip and turn. You know, ha 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 ha, you know, the hot rod, ha ha. He would talk about all the things that were happening around the back, and you'd have to watch. And then all of a sudden, the crazy man would start, I change all the answers. You know, once you have all, yeah, I'll change the question. That's what Piper did. But he had a very distinct way of building, and I think Ronda tries to do the same thing, not realizing it's a very hard way of going, especially when you're the obvious face in the situation, which Roddy Piper very rarely was. So, I don't know. Dalton Clark, so you think they're going to go for Becky WrestleMania over Ronda? I heard it's Ronda versus Charlotte or 4 Horsewomen versus 4 Horsewomen. I mean, they've talked about doing all of those things. I do think Becky is going to win the match at Survivor Series, which could easily lead to another match between the two at WrestleMania, but they do want to do Charlotte. They do want to do the Horsewomen thing, but they don't need to do the Horsewomen. I think it's too early for the Horsewomen. You already have Ronda as champion. Let's wait. Now, granted, all the other women are up in NXT now. I wasn't expecting that to happen so quickly, but they are. Let's let shit develop. Let's not rush the rest of the women up to the main roster. Plenty of Survivor Series next year. Perfect opportunity. Doesn't have to be a WrestleMania match. I hate the idea of 4 Horsewomen versus 4 Horsewomen. Hate it, hate it, hate it. If you're going to do it at next year's Survivor Series. Perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity. All right. Continuing on my list of grievances, I got a few more. Nia Jax. Nia Jax with, I'm assuming, a full-blown heel turn. Her and her Coziano, Miss Tamina Snuka, went ahead and destroyed poor Ember Moon in a weird one. It was weird. Nia needed to become heel again. I have no problem with that. Was this a full heel turn? What exactly was it? Is it just to get more matches out of Ember? Was it to create another tag team for this women's tag team division? What exactly is the point? Because I really don't know. And does that mean anything for Nia's singles run with Ronda? Because you think that she's going to be the next #1 contender, but we don't know anything anymore. It was just a very weird thing to do. If you're going to turn Nia heel, I would have much rather have been used as a tool by the corporation. She's a perfect entity to be used by Stephanie McMahon. I would have much rather have seen that. Would have been more of a reason, you know? A little weird. I still love Nia, but it seemed like a very meh-ish moment to me. I don't know. And that's what I talked about earlier, Dalton. There's a major problem with the turning too much. You don't want to turn into the Big Show. And we talked about that earlier in this very show, as a matter of fact. Terry, I think the Bella Twins will get Becky that win. That's a possible way of going about it. If you want to keep Nikki and Brie in the situation with Ronda going forward, maybe have that match happen at Royal Rumble. We do already have Nia, who has a guaranteed title match at some point. I don't know. It's an interesting way to go. The fact is, Nikki Bella's match with Ronda Rousey was not an abortion like a lot of people thought it was going to be. It was not that bad. So another match between the two isn't off the table, but I think there are so many other options right now, including Becky, including Charlotte, Sasha Banks at some point. There are some people that really we're going to see eventually come up the ranks and start challenging Ronda, and hopefully that's going to be the case, but we'll see. But I think it is a possibility. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Kurt Angle headlining Monday Night Raw with Drew McIntyre. This was a weird one. This is a weird one. Before I address that, Dalton, what connection do Bellas have with Becky? Though I think it would fall flat. They don't have to have. It's Survivor Series. It's everybody's just there. They have a connection with Ronda. They don't need a connection with Becky. That's too easy. All right. Kurt Angle headline. Kurt Angle wrestling with Drew McIntyre, which was supposed to be the match with Baron Corbin to see if, which I do believe Kurt is going to end up on the Survivor Series team. I don't understand why they had him lose to Drew, especially tap out to Drew. It was very weird. The whole match was weird. It felt like they couldn't get some of the people they wanted on the European tour, or really Roman being out is hurting more than they even thought. So let's put the biggest name that we could possibly put in the main event with the guy who needs to be put over in Drew McIntyre. So it seems very simple, paint by the numbers, easy to do. And that's what they did. But it was very weird. The finish was odd and strange, a little bit more definitive than I would have thought they would have done. Kurt didn't really look all of that good, but he hasn't for a very long time. So it's like, what do you do with Kurt Angle at this point? Because he really can't be GM. He really can't be a full-time wrestler anymore. So it's like, what do we do here with him? I have no idea. Like, what the fuck are we going to do with this man? No clue. But I just want to kind of address the situation real quick, because what does it mean for Survivor Series for Kurt? Is Kurt going to get the GM job back? I'm very confused by it. And what does it mean for Drew? You know, we already knew Drew was on the way up and he was going to be huge and he was going to be like one of the next big guys to challenge Brock or Braun or whatever the case may be. But we haven't even seen him go after Strowman the last couple of weeks again. It's like, where is that? Where's the Monster Hunter? I want to see that. That sounded like a great fucking storyline. So I don't know. So the entire headlining match seemed very odd to me. I'm glad Drew won, but I'm not glad that he won with an ankle lock. It's very strange. I don't know. Couple other things. This is more into the SmackDown world. Shane McMahon. Now, this question was asked earlier in the chat here. Shane McMahon winning at Saudi Arabia, the best in the world. Turns out it meant absolutely nothing. They glossed over it. They barely talked about it, and Shane's already talked about the fact that he is not the best in the world, yada, yada, yada. It all kind of rolled into the Miz Daniel Bryan storyline, which I did like. Surprisingly, I'm going to talk about that in a moment too, how much I really, really, really enjoyed it. I did. I loved it. I loved everything about Daniel and the Miz this week. I absolutely did. I can't deny that. But it did feel a little disjointed with Shane McMahon. Like, what's the point? Shane is going to be in the match at Survivor Series. They had him do some things that seemed very heelish, very, like, we're going in this direction. But yet, everything got walked back on SmackDown. I'm not saying that the Saudi Arabia thing should have mattered, but it's like, why be so blatant and obvious that it didn't matter? It's like, let's protect it a little bit, but they decided not to. It's basically just been thrown out. It never happened. It doesn't matter. So, found that a little bit odd. Everyone lies, I thought you'd be hyped about that match. Drew looked like a killer. This was his main event transition match. I don't feel that way, mainly because Kurt wasn't that good. It just felt like a weird match. It didn't really feel like it had a lot of purpose or meaning. Drew looked fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It's great for Drew. I just wish it would have been against a better opponent. But that's just I understand that Kurt's still a name, and that's great and everything, but I don't know. All right, Miz and Daniel Bryan. Let's hurry this along. Got a couple other things to talk about, then I'm getting out of here. Miz and Daniel Bryan. They are not stopping with these guys, and they've had a little... I was wrong. I really thought that they were going to be getting away from this running and screaming, but they're not. They're continuing forward with Daniel Bryan and The Miz, and I really agree with it. I think it's a very smart way to go. It seems like they're going into the respect angle, which I wasn't really expecting because I didn't think it was a very smart thing to do. With The Miz and the way that he is, it just never felt like they were ever going to get to a place where The Miz became the respected veteran. You know, it just didn't feel like he had that type of range, like he was going to get to that point. But he is. He really is. And it's because of Daniel Bryan. It's the connection, 7, 9 years, whatever they've been connected to each other now. Jesus fucking Christ, it's been forever. It helps. I do think they still make a lot of missteps with The Miz, and I do get that a lot of people have become huge Miz fans, and I do appreciate what The Miz does as well at times, but I also get very disenchanted with him so quickly because of how disjointed I feel that he is most of the time with his promos. You want to talk about a guy who comes off very mechanical at times and then turns it up, it's The Miz. Miz says a lot of the same things over and over, doesn't do a lot for me most of the time. But the weird, awkward moments with Daniel Bryan, to me, it screamed Daniel Bryan and Kane all over again. A matchup that we saw too many times, that it's like, okay, The Miz and Daniel Bryan, there's really not much more that they can do with each other at this point unless they completely have a cooling off. But then are we going to care when they have to start fighting and feuding again in like 6 months because we know it's coming? Kane was the same thing. Kane and Daniel Bryan did a whole lot of things together. They got into the ultra violence type angle, and there was simply nowhere else that they could go together. So they made them a team, and it turned into a very comedic, funny, and overall dominating storyline. And it seems like we might be on the beginnings to that. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get Dr. Shelby or anything like that because we absolutely don't need it. But to see those two have a couple of moments together of being on the same page and not liking the fact that they're liking each other, I thought was kind of cool. There seems to be some mutual respect that's starting to be built. And then it does seem like there might be a little bit of a double turn being planted. Not a short one, but a long-term one. If you've been noticing over the last few weeks, especially with the storyline with AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan has been more heelish. This week, he absolutely was more heelish with the situation with Samoa Joe. And to see The Miz kind of still be a dick, still be an asshole, but still also be the voice of reason in some ways with, you know, are you going to let your personal feelings, you know, even though he's the one who put Samoa Joe on the team, essentially, by picking him in that match. I don't know. I really like these two together, and I want to see what they're going to do because there's a lot of things that they can do with them together going forward. But it feels to me that they're going double turn. That by the end of this, Miz is going to be the face in the situation who has respect for the industry, and Daniel Bryan's going to be the resentful heel that realizes that shortcuts would have got him a lot farther. I don't like this. I don't fucking like this. I think if they go this route and they go full on, it's going to fucking hurt both of them. There is a middle ground here, and that's where they got to find. They got to find that where while their association with each other changes and betters both wrestlers, it doesn't change them enough to where it's a fundamental difference in who they were before the stories started. That's where the mistakes always happen. That's where wrestling goes too far, because you can't connect with gigantic, huge 180-degree turns. Not unless there's something personal. And there's already personal stuff between these two. There's nothing that would really warrant huge, let alone 2 180-degree turns, let alone 1. There's nothing there that warrants it. They could still do everything that they want to do with these two together, get the points across, and just have them both be better for it afterwards. It just depends on where they go. 2012, they tried babyface Miz. Ric Flair did not work. Yes, they've tried face Miz a few times, and it didn't work. But it's always because with the Miz, you kind of have to pigeonhole and force it in. You really got to put that peg through the hole, and it doesn't always connect. I think the Miz is in a better place now than he was then, but we'll see. Flan, what did you think of this Best in the World gimmick with Shane Dave? Anything related to CM Punk, maybe? No, absolutely not. I don't think it had anything to do with CM Punk. CM Punk is not the first wrestler to ever say Best in the World. He's just not. It had been said before. It had been used before. You know, Chris Jericho had done it. It's not like he's the only person to ever proclaim he was the best in the world. People still do it to this day. No, I don't think the WWE does things intended in the same mind to go with CM Punk. What I think they wanted to do was they wanted to do a King of the Ring tournament. They wanted to bring it back at Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia was like, no, we're a monarchy. Fuck you. We're the only kings here. You're lucky we let Jerry Lawler into the fucking country. So they said no to it. They were like, okay, well, what can we do? World Cup. FIFA. FIFA's important. Oh, we want FIFA, Saudi Arabia. We want FIFA. We lost out on FIFA. We'll make our own. Here, call it the World Cup. Best in the world. Do that. That'll work. I don't think there was a lot of thought into it. I think they just went with the easiest, lowest hanging fruit after the World Cup idea. No, I don't think it had anything to do with CM Punk. Dalton Clark. Miz trained Bryan, and Bryan won his first championship off Miz. There are legs here, but they haven't used this for some reason. NXT, or what's called back then. Well, he didn't train Bryan. He was Bryan's mentor in the original version of NXT, and he really didn't do anything for Bryan. All they did was fight and argue and get into shit, but they never really leaned on it too much. And yes, Daniel Bryan did get his first title off of Miz. That's true too. But they never really had to lean on it all that much, because keeping them apart from each other has always made more sense. Now they have to be together, and I think it makes a lot more sense to do that now, and it's working. So, a few more things we're going to get out of here. Usos and the New Day. I have no problem if these two fight forever. These two teams, man, the Usos and the New Day, once again, no matter how many times I've seen them go, no matter how many times I've seen the same fucking match, I love these teams together. I love what the Usos have become. No more playing the paint. I love Uso Penitentiary. I am enamored with the Usos, man. I really am. And New Day do what they do. They are fantastic. I love the New Day still. I'm not tired of them. But it did highlight a major problem with Survivor Series. Too many matches. We do not need every division represented. We certainly do not need each division represented multiple times. They're doing it with the women, so like we need to do it with the tag teams as well. You already have tag team versus tag team. Best tag team on SmackDown versus best tag team on Raw. If you want to do a second match where it's like a grudge match, you know, one of the tag teams on Raw wants to call it one of the SmackDown teams and it's not a championship thing, it's fine. But to take 10 other tag teams and shoehorn them into a disastrous 10-man, 5-team each tag, 10 on 10, 20-man battle, 20-man tag team match. Awful idea. Stupid. I hate it. Didn't like it last year. Like it even less this year. Don't need to see it. We need one unified tag team division, and that is it. We need to stop this shit. The women no longer need to be divided, and neither do the men. We don't need 2 women's champions, and we don't need 2 tag team divisions. We just don't. There's not enough talent to go around to sustain both divisions. One is all we need. That's it. That's it. That's it. Okay. Nikki Cross made her debut. We talked about everything with Becky earlier in the incredible promo that Becky cut, and then I loved at the end of it, at the end of everything with Ronda, she said, "Now I want to fight. I'm all fired up. I want to fight. Who wants to come at the man?" And it was Nikki Cross. And it was not only Nikki Cross, it was Nikki Cross with Sanity. Sanity needed the missing piece, man. And Nikki Cross is that missing piece of Sanity. Sanity is a cool group of guys that are very, very talented and all that type of stuff. But having the psychopath, the Scottish psycho woman, Nikki Cross, running around, getting into shit, causing all kinds of chaos is what made Sanity special. So to have her back now and to have her get the pop and the reaction and the recognition that she did and have a good, solid, not great, not spectacular, but good, solid match with Becky was a very smart way. Please don't fuck this up. Sanity can be rebuilt. You could do stuff with Sanity now. It's going to be okay. But don't fuck this up. Please, I'm begging you. You have an opportunity. Nikki Cross is fantastic. Let's go ahead and do this. And why Nikki Cross is so important, why Nikki Cross needs to do something great, was highlighted in the women's Survivor Series match, the 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series match that they also do not fucking need. Because the SmackDown women's division is a mess behind Becky Lynch. Without Charlotte there, whatever's wrong with Charlotte at the moment, there is no one behind them. There is no one there. Mandy Rose trying to start some shit. It was just, it's a mess. Asuka, nobody cares. Naomi, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They need to shake up the women's division so badly. We need new women from NXT now. We need trades, massive trades between Raw and SmackDown. We need it now because there was no one else that was there behind Becky. The Raw's women division is not exactly stacked either or bubbling with people that we give a fuck about currently. But SmackDown is in a really bad spot. We need more people that we can give a fuck about down there in SmackDown. Nia Jax going over to SmackDown is an easy fix. Nia for Asuka. Get Asuka over to Raw. Put Nia Jax on SmackDown. I think it's an easy way to balance things out. Unless you just drop the brand shit and have one women's title. That's what I think. That's what I think. That's what I think. I don't know. Dalton Cook, why would they care about Asuka when they buried her after Charlotte? It wasn't even the fact that they buried her with Charlotte. And I don't think I don't feel they really messed that situation up too much aside from having her tap out. But yeah, it was the after stuff. It was the fact that Asuka never got back on track. That was the problem. But it is what it is there. What are you going to do? All right. On that note, I got to go. I got to go to the bathroom really, really bad. So maybe even worse than I thought. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. And we'll see you next time. Holy crap. I'm going to piss myself. Keep it copious. Peace. Holy shit. Bye.